Hi Aquarius, welcome to your July 2024 horoscope. Honestly, July has a lot happening. I think there are only a handful of days in the month when we do not have any astrological events, any conversations between the planets. And that doesn't mean that it might all necessarily be intense. A lot of these transits are sextiles and trines. So it might be that there is a sort of prevalent energy throughout the month, but it might not be necessarily something that's quite intense or something that we necessarily have to deal with. This is because trines and sextiles are usually a little bit more easygoing. So all of that being said, I am not going to highlight all of the events in July in this horoscope. If I do that, we're going to be here for a while. So for the time's sake, and also for your own sake, so that you feel like you can keep in context more of the major high-level overview of the month, I'm only going to highlight the most important aspects. But that being said, if you have a day where you're feeling quite intense, and I didn't mention it in this horoscope, please feel free to stick with your reflective practices, whether journaling, yoga, whatever it might be for you, walks in the park, to allow yourself to return back to yourself, to reflect on what is happening and why are you feeling that way, and perhaps even what this is trying to teach you. But let's start off the horoscope, why don't we? One of the most major events of the month of July is Neptune going retrograde. This is happening on July 2nd. And for you, Aquarius, Neptune is going retrograde in your second house. And it's going to stay retrograde until December. Neptune has been in your second house since 2011. So for a while, you have really been addressing any of the dreams that you've had when it comes to your self-respect, when it comes to your own ability to take care of yourself, when it comes to your ability to make money and to be in a safe and secure place in your life. And now that Neptune is retrograde, you might be reconsidering whether all of the steps you have taken in that direction since 2011 were the right ones. Have you been seeking self-respect, security, comfort in material things? Have you allowed yourself to feel safe and secure because of the new car you bought, instead of actually working on establishing that from deep within yourself? Take notes for the next 5 months while Neptune is retrograde, because when it goes direct, you sort of have a chance to give it a try again. On July 6th, we have a new moon in Cancer in your 6th house. So the sun and the moon are in your 6th house. So because the sun and the moon are in your 6th house, you might be feeling like a new beginning to get started fresh with your workout routine, to get started fresh with your healthy habits, perhaps with your cuisine and the way you eat, your diet. But it could be things such as your sleep, or maybe you want to make sure that you get into a habit of going to your doctor checkups a little bit more often, or going to the dentist checkups a little bit more often. So if there's anything that you've wanted to do, if you wanted to get started around your health and your routine, this new moon is a great time to do so. On July 10th, there is a really interesting conversation between the Sun and Venus, and Saturn and Neptune, and again between your 6th and your 2nd house. And what I love about this transit is that it shows us that we cannot look at one transit removed from the others. All of it in the grand scheme is connected, and one transit highlights something from another that may have just happened or is about to happen. So what is happening on July 10th is that the sun has traveled so far in your 6th house that it's trining Saturn in your 2nd house. But at the same time, just a couple of degrees later in Cancer, Venus is trining Neptune. And I love that both of these are happening on the same day because, again, it shows that this conversation with what Saturn and Neptune are doing in your second house and what the Sun and Venus are doing in your sixth are connected. We cannot look at them as separate from one another. And for you specifically, Aquarius, the way I see this trine playing out for you is that the hard work you've been putting into your routine, into establishing a better health, a better exercise regime for yourself is helping build your self-confidence, is helping you feel more in love with yourself, is helping you feel more in respect with yourself, and is giving you that confidence that also reflects in all other parts of your life. Just a day later, on July 11th, Venus enters Leo, or your seventh house. And if you remember, Pluto right now is at 0 degrees of Aquarius. So that also means that when Venus enters Leo, it is opposing Pluto. This means that July is going to be quite a Plutonian month. I'm sorry, perhaps you're not so excited to hear that, especially because it's in your first house. Pluto is in your first house right now. But because both Venus and the Sun are going to enter Leo in July, they're going to oppose Pluto. And later on, we also have a full moon where Pluto is involved. There's just no way to deny it. A lot of the Plutonian themes that you might have experienced since January of this year are coming back up again. And for you specifically, Aquarius, you might feel they're like, in July, you might feel like there is a tug of war between standing in your power, establishing yourself as a leader, versus establishing yourself as an equal, being considerate of others and being able to be in an equal and respectable relationship with them. So there's really this balance between who am I as an individual? How can I show up and lead? Versus how can I also exist in relationships with others. A day later, on July 14th, we have one of the other biggest events of the month, which is the conjunction between Mars and Uranus. For you, Aquarius, this is happening in your fourth house, so it might be one of the more intense ones for you. So you are one of the zodiac signs that is going to experience this possibly most intensely, along with the other fixed signs, of course. There might be some unexpected news coming from your family or in regards to your home that is asking you to be courageous, to stand up for yourself, to set boundaries, and to do the things that scare you. But you might also find yourself reacting in quite an explosive way. Of course, it's Mars and Uranus involved together in an unpredictable way. All motivated from this goal of wanting to set boundaries, wanting to feel in control, and wanting to be unique and independent from your family, or perhaps bring those into your home setting, into your literal physical home as well. On July 20th, Mars is entering Gemini, or your fifth house. Mars entering your fifth house might feel a bit more exciting than with it in your fourth house, Aquarius. So here with Mars in your fifth house, you might feel a little bit more lightweight. You might find it easier to have more fun, to hang out with people a little bit more. You might enjoy your hobbies and your free time very easily. And your focus might really be on that as well. One word of caution, because Mars is in Gemini, there might be a tendency to overextend yourself. There might be a tendency to say yes to all of the parties you're invited to, or there might be a tendency to pick up 10 different hobbies during the month of July. So one word of advice would just be to be really mindful not to overextend yourself. A day later, on July 21st, there is a full moon in Capricorn. And this is the full moon that I was talking about earlier. That is a Plutonian full moon. Even though the moon is in Capricorn and Pluto is in Aquarius, they are actually like 1-2 degrees away from each other during this full moon. And at the same time, Mars is trining Pluto. So yeah, it's safe to say the Plutonian themes will definitely be present during this full moon. And because the moon is in the final degrees of Capricorn and Pluto is also retrograde, it's working its way towards Capricorn one last time during this year. I do think that the Plutonian themes coming up for all of us during this full moon are not just the ones since January of this year with Pluto in Aquarius, but I think they're going to reach all the way back through the lessons that Pluto has been teaching us in the last 20 years while it was in Capricorn. And full moons can be a sort of revelation. And because we're talking about this final degree of Capricorn, I really see this full moon as perhaps a final piece of insight that you might have missed in the last 20 years when Pluto was in Capricorn. A little detail that you overlooked that during this full moon, you become really aware of it and you learn about it. And I do think that this revelation will be more on the positive end of things. This is because during the full moon, the Sun trines Neptune and Venus sextiles Jupiter. So these are quite pleasant aspects with pleasant planets like Venus, Jupiter, Neptune. So I do feel like the piece of information that you're learning during this full moon feels like the missing puzzle piece of the last 20 years that just makes it all make sense, that makes you fully understand what the Pluto and Capricorn transit was trying to teach you. And for you, Aquarius specifically, just to give you a little clue as to what this might look like or what it might be about, Pluto was in Capricorn in your 12th house for the last 20 years. And so for you, there might be this missing puzzle might be around compassion towards people and a more complete understanding of all of the humanity that exists within all of us. And it's just the following day on the 22nd that the Sun also enters Leo, your 7th house, and also opposes Pluto. So what's really interesting for me is that the crescendo of this full moon, I think, might last for a little bit longer. It might not reach its crescendo until a day later on the 22nd, because that Sun and Pluto opposition is building up and reaching its crescendo on the 22nd. Pay attention, especially as to what happened when Venus opposed Pluto, because you might find that when the Sun opposes Pluto, the same themes come back up again. The final transit that I wanted to talk about in this July horoscope, Aquarius, is the sextile between the Sun and Mars. And this is a sextile between your 5th and 7th house. How this might manifest for you, Aquarius, is that the fun you've been having, the parties you've been attending, the hobbies you've been enjoying so much are making it easier for you to connect with your partner. Perhaps they're putting you in a good mood so that you're able to be more lightweight, more joyful, more playful with your partner as well. And it's benefiting your relationship in that way. So overall, Aquarius, I hope you're ready for July. Pluto in Aquarius is definitely going to be active. And I think for you, especially because it's in your 1st house, it might feel especially intense. So I really encourage you to stick to the habits that you have that help you feel grounded, that help you reflect and come back to yourself. But overall, you also have Mars entering your 5th house and the Sun and Venus entering your 7th. So it's a really good time to also make sure you have fun, make sure you do the things that you enjoy, and also find time to, of course, connect with your partner and feel some of that loving energy as well. So thank you for joining me, Aquarius. I hope you enjoyed this horoscope. And before you go, one last thing. I am doing a giveaway on this channel. When we reach 1,000 subscribers, I'm giving away one free reading to one of you. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks for joining me again, and I hope to see you again soon.